started, number one, I would like to take a second and congratulate Melissa Buckley. You want to stand up? You want to stand up? Melissa does mixed media, and she also is a fiber artist, and she was in a is currently is over. Okay, she was in a fiber show called Different Fibers. So was Suzanne. And Suzanne O'Brien also participated in that show. But in the category called Different in the Different Fiber show, Melissa was awarded first place.
All right.
And then Jack has a couple of announcements before we get started.
Hello, everyone. As you know, the June show is coming up. I'm going to be in Scotland, so I won't be able to help you. Anyway, we still have some time slots open for Sunday morning, so if you're helping out, please let me know. I'll put you on a schedule. I'll send you the schedule so you know what times and who's going to be with you or after you or your friend. Also, I'm in the Eastern Road Rotary, and every year I organize an event where we challenge the Kiwanians to a croquet tournament. This is the third annual. We'll be taking place August 14th on the watercraft great lawn right out here. And every year we've been offering free booth space to artists. So if you want, we're going to start the games at 5:30, but if you want to set up like around 4 o'clock or so, and then the games go to about 8. So you're gonna have about 4 hours of free booth space. We'd love to have you. We're trying to draw as many people in as possible for, to watch the games and participate in vendor booths and stuff. So again, if you're interested in free booth space for a couple hours, let me know. Okay.
Do you have food there and the music? Or?
We had music last year. I don't know if we're gonna do it again this year, but the food is at the Road Club. So we all, at the awards ceremony, we all go over there. Drinks will be available. The waitresses will walk across the street and serve you your drinks right there on the lawn. But if you store, you can drink outside. So.
Last place in the country, right?
No, actually, there's a lot of places doing it now.
Oh, we're trendsetters.
Anyway, all right.
And one more little note, if you haven't seen our merch store, it's on the website. That's where I got this cool t-shirt. That's where Melissa got her cool sweatshirt. So if you want to rock the triangle rose, that's where you get your merchandise. And without further ado, I would like to tonight introduce Robin Yates. For those of you who don't know her, she is the chair of education for the Guild, and she normally sets up our presenters with some help from Minute Better. But she normally is in charge of the programming, and tonight is her turn to present for us and talk about her career and her path as an apprentice. So, thank you, Robin.
Thank you all for being here. Most of you know me as a Julie. What I want to do is encourage you all to look at what you did when you were a child, all through school up to this time. There's so many things that have influenced us as artists, right? Whether it's family, the ups and downs of life, right? I need to tell you up front that, this is kind of over the top, but I had such fun doing this, putting this together. First of all, I'm an awful perfectionist. You would never know it by looking at what is all out here. Nothing I've ever done is perfect. I've come close, maybe a couple of pieces, but that's not my intent. I mean, a huge process for it. So it's more the journey than the end product. And yet, those pieces turn out and you just feel good, then you let them go, and then you're on to the next thing. And you keep influencing yourself over and over, right? So I started out doing jewelry when I was about 10 years old. And I have 2 of my Barbie dolls here. I have about 10. And these are the little earrings I made. I was crazy, little stick pins and thread and aluminum balls, but to me, they were treasures when I was going. So I'm not going to walk those over to the camera. Other things I will, so people on Zoom can see better. But there's, the way I started really even before that is when I was in grammar school, my godmother used to give me her stone rings. You know, the little dollar and that when you could buy homeworks or whatever, and they were, oh, that was a big deal. I would sit in school and look at the ring and pretend that I was paying attention to the teacher or I'm a multitasker, so I was probably listening to it, but I could see out the window, I could see the clock, and I could see the board. And so these little birthstone rings, like the one I got here from my first boyfriend in high school, is just an example of another reason, a big influence on why I started doing jewelry later on. Again, I'm nowhere near perfect, but you know, you all know me as a jewelry person, but I've done a lot of painting and printmaking. I don't even think I brought any printmaking, although there's some in one of the books here. I love using all media, and I'm ultimately a multimedia person. And I need to live another 3 lifetimes. You know, and there's a, but I just want to go forward and enjoy what I can do when I can do it. So let me share more of some of the beginnings. This is very simple. I'm not a great watercolor painter. I'm not a great painter in any way. I've explored the different media. We have acrylics, oils, tempera, and I've done pastel work, but this was a watercolor I did in high school. Is it great? No, but it shows you that, you know, just part of my beginnings, what kind of led me forward. Barbie dolls have their little earring pieces on. This is a pastel I did of a potato and an onion. This was out of my head. And I will tell you, this little temper painting, 20 years later, I was driving along, I don't know where I was, but I swear it was the same view. I feel like it was like a precognitive vision that I had with that little painting. Some of these are my earlier jewelry. When I went to grad school at RIT, I only intended on doing jewelry work. And I had a professor there who was a copper sculptor. So I started out doing chasing. And some of these pieces are here. And by the way, if you do want to come around and look later in the back and the front, circle around, whatever it takes, you're really welcome to pick these up and look at them. The only things I would ask you not to pick up are the one piece that I have, the jewelry piece over there on the form, and the Barbie dolls, because they're so old. They're like, you know, it's dating, but the early 60s, okay? All right, so some of my early jewelry work. This is my thesis. There's a lot of photographs in here, some of the writing that I did. This was a piece of sculpture I did on the RIT campus. My father was a great man, but I was a girl, and I was growing up, you know, kindergarten in 59, and then the 60s came up. My brother came along a few years later. My brother used a lot of the tools. Dad taught him how to use the tools, and so by the time I was like in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I would use whatever I could and try to learn how to put things together. And so this piece here that Stacy just held up there's like 500 some copper nails that hold this piece together, including sisal rope. I was so broke back then, I was eating like popcorn and carrots for dinner, that kind of thing. We've all been there at one point or another, right? And so I found this, you know, our barns are starting to shut down, and I would drive to Rochester to pick up old barn wood. There's a railroad tie in here somewhere, but I would pick up whatever I could to build things. Again, my thesis is here, lots of photographs, a lot of copper work, casting. So again, I thought I was going to do jewelry in grad school, and I just love that copper. And the first time I'm sweating even now thinking about it. I had a piece of copper. Didn't know what I was going to do with it, so I put it on the furnace. That was about this wide, and about length by width, about like this huge furnace of heat coming through. And I laid a fresh piece of copper on top, big old piece of copper. And I stood there and I all decked out in my respirator and my leather and steel-toed boots. And I look at it, and the darn thing started to breathe. So the copper was breathing. I'm like, oh, even now, again, I'm sweating more even thinking about it. It was one of those moments that we all dream of, right? So I ended up, instead of doing jewelry, I ended up starting with the chasing. This was the next step before I actually worked with the larger pieces. This was called Precious, and I was working not knowing where I was going with this, and I would start with this, the idea was the rest of life. And there was something about, the way I was raised and this beautiful, the nutrition of life and all the resources we have, and so there was this idea of, again, the rest of life, and I would pound in, I kneel it with heat, with oxy 70 torch, pound out on the other side, I go back and forth and time, finally I break through. What a strange release that was. I'm not even sure what it released, but it was something I had to do. You know what it's like when you're inspired to do something, and if you don't do it, you end up feeling blocked, right? Not all the time, but sometimes. I'm rattling along here because I do want to share a lot, so if I need to slow up or talk louder, maybe not talk so loud, please let me know. When I was done with grad school, I didn't start teaching right away, and I had no teaching degree. I had a master's, and my intention was to use it as a kind of meditation. Well, my metals teachers didn't understand that, but well, I had come off of a divorce, did our shows here in Buffalo. In fact, in 1988, for 2 years, I was manning the whole display deck in Dallas, Texas, setting up for Keenan, then setting up for Allentown, setting up, taking down 2 days in a row for 2 or 3 years. We used to have to do that. And then I would mail everything back after those 2 weeks. So when I finally moved back, I had a little bit of a customer base here. And then, and even now, my favorite thing is commission work. I have these inspired ideas and I work through with my jewelry. And to me, they're little sculptures, some more than others. And it's pretty obvious, you're all artists, you can see for yourself with what you see in the books and what you see on the table here. So anyway, when I go back to grad school, I got stuck on this piece once. I didn't know what else to do with it. Originally, it was just the shape of a palette, of an artist's painting palette. And then I used a bandsaw and I cut it out the way I wanted, and got to a point I didn't know what else to do with it. And the teaching assistant said, throw it in the air. I threw it in the air about 12, 15 feet, and when it landed, it sort of knocked out that the resistance or whatever was going on. So I ended up calling this piece precious because I was trying to get it just right, and that's just not me. It's still, it never will be. So anyway, the paperwork, after I graduated from my master's degree, I was really lucky to get a couple of artist residencies, and two of them were at Arca. The first one, I turned it's an all-American made car. She let me, Joan McDonough, I don't know if anyone ever remembers Joan from our park. She used to run the artist residencies out there. And so she let me go to the junkyard with her. We picked out an all-American made car. It was like a 64 Chrysler 4-door, not a Japanese part, but even a car. It was all American made, every bit of it. 4-door, and the inside part, it had fish floating in it, just with fishing line, and cut out fish, and public who came in, and a couple guys came in, and Bill Cook from Buffalo Art Studio helped me do these wings, Fred from the Boy. Some of you have heard him speak before. So anyways, about 15 people, I turned it into a giant seagull. It's called River Mobile. My father worked in the front and built the whole Niagara Falls River scene. There was 2 weeks of working from like 9 to 11 at night, living in Buffalo, driving to Niagara Falls. I couldn't do it now physically. Boy, I did it. I get charged every time I keep doing it. Moving on, so these bird forms, I started doing them in grad school, but then I continued doing them when I was at Arca. And boy, working with an oxy-acetylene tank like this, that was incredible. I hope to do that again. This one is, it's a piece called Birthing. It's a copper piece that I worked on. It's about this big. Right now it sits on a pole because the stump ended up turning to mulch. And right now there's a bird rotting nesting in my backyard. So everything changes, right? Transition. And the last piece that I did, going back to grad school again, was part of my thesis work. If you hold it up to the light, you'll see it better, but this was it's called Seraph. For those of you who don't know me, I'm very involved in the healing arts. I was ordained in a church many years ago. I still practice with healing. and I'm a spiritualist, and it's all about love and healing and all of us being part of the same body. And so I was working on that back when I was at Art Park. This was, the piece is called One Body. It was all steel. Steel does, you can't fuse steel. Well, I fused steel. I knew it wasn't going to last, but I did it anyway because I wanted to experiment, and that's a big part of what I like to do anyway. So this was rebar, and this was one of the pieces at Art Park. If you were there, that piece was there for a year. They would then take it away. Like I pictured that giant seagull being towed down the road with the wings going like this. I probably tore it apart before they took it, but. What I did for that one body piece is, and I was just starting to study healing arts, getting involved with meditation, working with humans, channeling, that kind of thing. So, this. The piece was about, I don't know, it was about that high. And it was kind of a teepee feeling. I had a friend who was a Native American. He would come into town once in a while and he would talk about Mother Earth a lot, that kind of thing. The pieces were made out of rebar. They're rebar, and I would take wet sand and lay it on the ground. And then I would use my body parts, my hands, my arms, and sometimes I would incorporate pyrite or pieces of copper. And the rebar would set within the cement. And it lasted about a year, and then it started falling apart. But it was about all of us being part of it. The idea of Mother Earth, and just, you know, at this point in my life, I'm hoping to just do what I can to kind of create beautiful things. All of you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you create, you share it with other people, it just fills the world, global world body. All right, so congratulations, James. This was back when I was in the Red Rock Festival, and wow for a long time. And we used to have on campus, we used to have the shows. And so this is before we moved down to Parkdale, and this was, I don't have a picture of my parents with me, I kind of wish I did. This piece is 6 by 6 feet. And it's called Seraph, and it's meant to hang high, and it's like a high order of angel. And I snuck, when I was in grade school, I snuck into the building, I don't remember how, because I knew how to get around security. And I went up to the top floor when I knew everything was done for the night. I hung this with the big huge piece was pickled pink, and one of the custodians gave me a clean, you know, one of those trash bins that you can push around, and I filled it with pickle. And so they asked me to clean it to like the skin pink copper, and I had cut it with a band with I would use like other tools like axes and gadgets and stuff like that. Anyway, so I ended up with a Seraph, but it still needed to be finished. So I hung it upstairs in the building at school. And I worked from 11 in the morning, 11 at night till like 7 in the morning before security came back, I guess. Anyway, and I painted it with iridescent paints and earth tones that started in the middle and then spread out. So that's, again, I'm so proud. It's hanging in my living room. I never did find a space out in the world for it. When I was done with grad school too, I you know where the plane went down, the Clarence Center Elementary. Strangely enough, like a few blocks down the road, I had done a sculpture at this grammar school, and it was the first time I'd ever dressed like an auditorium, like 700 people. And I was so comfortable because I was so excited. So this is on the front and back. These are pictures of the 3-part sculpture that I created with 500 kids, starting with 1st grade through 6th grade. And I would have clusters of them at a time. Some of them dug a hole, some of them used old desks and things and were put upside down in the hole. We needed an armature, something, a bone structure for the sculpture to be built on. So eventually this is what we ended up with. Each separate one represents a different group of kids, a different age group of kids. And some of them added hardware, some of them tied the hardware onto the armature, and then we had to coat it, and just so many different steps. But that was, it was a huge investment of time, well worth it. And then, I guess it went on for like 4 or 5 years, and they finally had to take it down because the bees were nesting in it. And of course, it was in a courtyard at a school, it couldn't stay, so. That one was also, I had slate on the bottom of that one, slate has always meant a lot to me, and I know I'm rambling a lot, but these things I'm just letting roll as they come out. Have you ever sat in a creek when you're a child, in a bathing suit, or just shorts or whatever, on the slippery rocks on a shallow creek, pool creek on a hot day? You know, that's why slate means so much to me. I still can remember how that feels, and I'm tempted to do that Chestnut Ridge sometime this year. This were some of my favorite kids when I was teaching at Southside Elementary. I ended up there, my third school in Buffalo, thank goodness, very supportive people there. And so I'm getting into teaching a little sooner, but this one is really special. I want to have Stacy hold that up there because this boy was one of my favorite students. His name was Elijah. And when I did a field trip here, we did a tour of the campus. And I remember him walking around, and when the copper shop had that equipment that's over in here now, and he was looking around, and he was just like, and I remember him saying, it says on here, I don't want to remember this place. And so I hope he does. This is a copper piece made by, he's probably about 30, 40 some years now. He was a boy who there used to be, I forget her name, but over in the corner of that building, I was able to teach in Grove Park one summer for a couple weeks. And I was just using like the little propane tanks from the store to anneal copper. And some of the kids made bowls, some of them made flowers. I remember one of the last things that happened was, I remember things that you learn as you're teaching, right? The propane tank spinning around and thinking, it's better to do that out of the way because I didn't know what happened. But those are the things you learn as you go on regarding safety and all that. It was so much fun. I love working with kids, especially, for example, over at the copper shop back where they used to have the work area, and they used to be able to teach classes back there. I did a session there once with about 6 different people, 3 high school kids, 1 young girl, and her grandmother, and we did represent. And but one of the boys, and there's a picture of him in one of these books here. I think this one here. And I don't remember his name. I think it might have been Brian, but he had this long piece of copper like this. Just like me, he got crazy with wanting to go through, when you heat copper, it goes through the stages of color. It's the same stage every time it gets fresh pickled copper. And so he would use the torch and color the copper and hammer on it and do some texturing on it. And then he would put it in the pickle, and then he would start all over again. That's all he did for like 3 days. And he had a blast. There's a picture of him in here somewhere. I started teaching because I live alone. I love doing my jewelry work, but I needed to be out there more with people. And I had subbed before I even went to grad school. And no, it was right after I went to grad school. And I really love being with kids. And I'm gonna tell, am I talking to you?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this story because this is how, you know how things happen and they flip, sometimes in unexpected ways. I'm subbing at West and East in my old Mr. Swan Gold art room, who made me keep a sketchbook. I love Mr. Swan. A lot of people picked on him, I don't know why, but he was so very special about it. So I'm subbing in this room, and he had an aisle like this, and I'm over here at this desk, and this girl comes up and goes, and I said, start walking back to the sink, and she did, and this whole projection went all over. And I thought, you know what, I can do this. And that's how I figured I could handle teaching classes, if I could handle something like that. So anything you see there, if you want to put things up and check them out, there's more to say, but still, I want to encourage you to do that. It's just, you know, the Barbie dolls and that piece of jewelry, so it doesn't fall on the ground. Other than that, you pick things up through the books. So, let's see, I started in Alden, 6th grade. Does anybody know who Louise Nelson is? The sculptor? Well, anyway, she did these boxes that you see, these, constructions that you see. I'll bring out to as a collection of them. I don't know if Birchfield does, but I met her when I was in Dallas, living in Dallas, and I just loved her work. Anyway, we did that project in Alden when I was there. And the walls were filled with these crazy constructed boxes. And these are, as I'm speaking, these memories are coming to mind, and it just such a reward thinking back on what I could do instead of what I couldn't do, which is, you know, I was kind of in that mindset back then. Nowadays, I try not to let what I can't do, take my days away from me, I'll put it that way. So this seems like there's like things, some of the work that kids did when I was teaching. This is at the actual portfolio I interviewed with. I was a, student teacher at Orchard Park High School. The other student teaching position, and we had to do this all in the fall, I was for 1st to 8th grade at School 18 in Buffalo. What a contrast. I applied to Buffalo. I wanted to teach in Buffalo after that experience, and I didn't even get there till years later. But anyway, there's a lot to look through here if you're interested. And if you would think of any questions as I'm talking here, a town show will be done here in a minute. I was really excited to get this blown up the other day. This is my first booth. When I was in with our show in Richardson, Texas, just north of Dallas, my husband was in a BMW Pepsi, and one of his buddies, the other wife, was an artist, fabulous Hennessy artist, Andy Bajer. And she said, I had worked for a jewelry company when I moved to Dallas. Well, after a couple of really not so good jobs, like babysitting 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds who didn't have diapers changes, and I think he might have fired me after I took them all out in the gym and gave them basketballs. So I went through stages of, I worked for a man. He was like 85. I was one of his girls in the office. The other 2 women were like 90. And I worked in insurance rating policies for a year. And then Candy said, "What? You know, I interviewed for my father is a half-time Mason, Shriner. My brother's a Mason. There was a man named Roy Mason who hired me to polish jewelry. So I did that for about a year, and then I noticed all the guys were getting promoted. And I was a Yankee and I was a female, and I had 2 things against me already. So I had to really push to learn how to solder better and cast. And I'd sit in a room with a full-blown thing open of cyanide and a couple of years of that. Anyway, I went to another job, thinking that grass was greener on the other side. I got laid off after Christmas. And then this Candy talked me into taking my $400 employment check, and I did my first art show. So this is a little booth with some little colored boxes and a piece of jewelry I made with my $400 with my crazy green tarp on them. You may not recognize me. I look a little different now. And then it's my booth now. So it was so much fun to see my own growth with how things are changing. Can I show this? Oh, which one? Okay, what else? There's things I do every now and then. I painted a friend's fence. She wanted cherry blossoms, and no, it's not great, but she was thrilled to get it done. So I like doing different things every once in a while. Some of my artwork is here. Probably 2 of the best pieces I've made are one that Yvonne purchased one within the last year. She is one of the best pieces I've ever made. And so I don't have that to show, but it's in my book somewhere. But this one here was a commission from a pattern friend of mine. She's a art teacher from Buffalo. And it's for her sister. The piece is about that day. It's one of my favorites. And then this one here, I do want to speak about that because we go through things in our lives they're really, really difficult. And this is one of the, even now, I'm kind of tearing up a little bit. My dad was amazing. He used to come to the art shows, help me set up. And if he dropped one of my poles on the street, I'd be like, Dad, you're gonna scratch it up. I mean, I was meticulous. I was horrible to him. But he was glad to do it, and he was a perfectionist himself. But so he passed away in May of '04. And Allentown is coming up in like 2 or 3 weeks. And mentioning that he was a Mason, there's a Freemason symbol in this piece. What I did was I sat in this funny little place that I was renting up in that little loft area. And, you know, weeping, crying, and then take a couple of deep breaths and then like, oh, you know how things happen when you just let go. Let the nonsense go and things start flowing, right? Again, if you're as an artist. So there's my father taught us how to shoot archery. So there's a potential energy sort of metaphor going on here down at the bottom with like pulling a bow. There's diamonds, boulder opal. The organic piece in the middle is a piece of driftwood. Did I show this to you yet? All right. It was a piece of driftwood, and sometimes I incorporate wood and wax into the pieces. He loved the woods, and he was a hunter, so there's a little deer head I ripped off a piece of plastic from a deer. I don't know about it, but there's a little deer head in there. The brown diamond represents him in life, and the three-pronged trinity symbol at the top of the diamond is his birthstone, and the dragonfly, that's him waiting in the spirit. There's an angel here, you know, look, I'm so known as the angel lady, but I really wanted to show tonight that I do more than the angels, the fairies. But they are a big part of who I am because of my spiritual beliefs. So, this angel here is represents the angel that brought my mom and dad together. They got married. They were married in May, and it's an emerald representing that. The boulder opal is representing, you know, Minneapolis. It's yellow gold on the top and green gold on the bottom. Anyway, I took my little pieces of wax and I put this all together again with the head for the stone, heads for the stone, and the driftwood piece that I picked up from the lake. And oh my gosh, there's such healing about the art, right? If you let it work for you, it's amazing what it can do. Part of what it does is it balances our right and our left brains. And I firmly believe that. And at this time, I'll also announce if anybody's interested in singing, we're looking for more people for Park Rail, and that has been really, really good for me. Again, left and right brain, right, Janet? Yeah. And maybe Robin's going to join us. So, any kind of art, anything you can do, that's creative. And some of you know people who say, oh, I'm not an artist, oh, I'm not creative. And then you go into their homes and their borders. Mine is a menagerie of anything and everything, because I just like it that way. But, you know what I'm talking about. There's an artful way to live. You know, even pulling beauty into the house. I believe that that's part of the human beings. We're meant to be creative. We wouldn't be alive if we weren't creative. Even problem solving from where we came from. So anyway, this is my treasure piece, and it's called Going Up Yonder, because my father wanted that song at his funeral, and I sang it. And it's something that the Shriners gave me a copy of, and I did. Anyway, so that's why I named it. And I do like to name my pieces more than I used to. If it's something really special, I will name it. Like this piece here is called Cat, because it was designed for a woman named Cat. I have an old resume here with stuff that goes way back in Texas. I did art shows in Austin, in Kansas City, and nowadays this is more of a teaching resume, this current one, but it has information if you're curious at all. And this is one of my favorite pictures of me. It's an oak lawn south of Dallas, an alternative part of town. Me with my jeans and my little visor hat for the beard. I don't do that at craft shows anymore, and I do better. So, I think that almost wraps it up. I just want to encourage you take a look at what you've been doing in your life, you know, the ups and downs, the challenges. I'm a firm believer that you can turn anything, negative into something positive. I always find positives out of really hard things in life. My sister going through liver transplant steps. My brother-in-law came through leukemia. She had a bone marrow transplant. He's alive. He's out mowing the lawn. We survived. You know, if we don't survive here, we'll survive beyond. So the thing is to make use of your time and more than anything, be kind to yourself. And then that's a great, and more likely to just feel comfortable with anybody and everybody and be true to yourself, right? Okay, love you guys. Please feel free to come up after we might have some questions here. Anybody?
When did you do your very first show and what was it?
I'm not sure if it's maybe the one that Stacy did right there. It might have been Cottonwood, it might be this one. Or it might be the one I did in a little park with a woman in front of me, who did finger mice. I made about $2,000 and I made about 200. That taught me which shows I can do, and which shows. I can't do. This one now, this top nature is one that's out kind of in the country. It's just north of Dallas. I've been looking at the slot, the work that, I don't know if I could get in that show. I mean, it's really great work. And, but it used to be like $60 to do it for the full weekend. Now it's up to like 600 or more to do it. So did I answer your question?
You did.
Anybody else? Ray?
Yeah, so is this a display you have set up at home? Did you pull it together for this group?
Say again?
Is this a display that you have ready to make at home? Or did you pull it together?
No, I've been working on this for about a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna take out all my paper. No. I ended up writing notes and I did the best I could. You can only do so much, right?
So at the end, you know, when you said, okay, this is good, did you feel more about what you've been through or more is what was ahead? Did you get?
What I did do and what.
Yeah, I mean, so you're sitting
You know,
here.
thinking,
Yeah,
oh, the process, I really wanted to, like, who am I anyway? Why am I where I am right now? I've been so lucky all my life and some of the stuff I've been through, and I feel like I'm as far as wealthy as I can get. And it's just, I've been fortunate, I've had a lot of love in my life. I have friends, people I'm getting to know better. This community is really special. And extends out into the community here as well. And then, you know, the art shows that we do. I just love being out there. You know, and I'll be at Allentown in another month or so, and I'll be like, hey, here. You know, can't do that with everybody, but some people are just like, they don't know if they're allowed to come in. And I just love working with them. And it helps me because I don't teach anymore. And I used to love it. Well, I'm substitute teaching, but that's not the same as teaching. Any other questions? I have one. What's your question?
If you had to pick a favorite piece of all the things you've done, what would be your favorite?
Well, you mean jewelry or stuff?
No, I mean everything.
Everything on
Yeah.
there. Oh, boy.
I'm sorry. Do you want to tell us about the favorite jewelry piece while you think about it? Is your favorite piece even jewelry?
I think regarding sculpture, it would be the seraph piece that's hanging in my living room. As far as jewelry goes, be between purchased 15 months ago. Sorry, where it's like.
I don't know.
Yes, Dan. Do you have a question? No, anybody else?
Can we show Sarah to the people on the camera?
Oh, yeah. Sarah. Oh,
The pic, yeah, the Sarah.
This one?
Yep.
We just want to show our online.
This one, it shows a couple of the colors. If you want to pick it up and hold it up to the light. It took about 3 months to make. Oh, I want to share one more thing. When I was in grad school, there's nothing else.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yes,
You know, my
super good.
physical limitations now of being, I'm a little over 40 now. Back then I was 40 when I was in grad school, a little bit beyond there. But the thing is, I would heat it up on this furnace. And it would be deep red, almost starting to give way and melt a little bit. And I would take these pieces, a couple of them were like 50 pounds. And I would pick it up, the leather gloves, it'd be middle of winter, ice and snow packed up against the foundry area, and I would pick up the piece with my leather gloves, and I would walk out, respirator on, look back down in the leather, and I'd throw it into this big pile of ice and snow. It would just quench it. Those moments, you just can't know those moments unless you go through it.
I have another one. Because it's, what is your biggest piece that you've worked on? Is it the vehicle, like the river vehicle, or?
Definitely. And the cool thing about that is people came from the public. It was, and I didn't even say this before, it was, she's talking about this one here. The driftwood pieces that are on top of the car, I dragged out of Erie Basin Marina, and then I painted them all white. And the idea of the river mobile was, moving from physical to spiritual in life. And so there's a ladder in here that I found in the dump somewhere or whatever. That's the idea of Jacob's ladder. And then there's a little bird found similar to these flying around. And so that there were so many people involved with that. My dad doing the Niagara Falls River Scene. Franklin helped me do the steel work that he had to get a long piece of steel so that the wing would be supported with something. And then it was paper, like a paper mache way of making the wings. And Bill Cook is he's somebody from Buffalo Art Studio. He's an amazing sculptor, one of the best in Western New York, probably international, at least national, United States. He has a place at Buffalo Art Studio. He also he has a casting foundry that he has, and I haven't seen him in years. And he's like, you see him and he's constantly working. He never stops. But he did the angel piece for Jim Kelly and his family, in preparation for Kelly's son. So I've been very lucky to work with some amazing artists. Franklin, the boy, he's the one that helped me with the metal work to hold the wings up. He does metaphysical tours and historical tours of Buffalo. He's a friend of Mason Winfield. So many cool stories. Jack.
Is that in your living room too? What happened to that after it was?
Yes, I was
Well,
gonna ask that.
Never really found out. I maybe don't want to know. Again, I like the idea that maybe they dragged it right off the grounds and blocked off the roads and went back to the junkyard where the things doing this. So I'm sure they just ripped it apart. Yeah. Oh, I did a lot of etching in grad school too, so just wanted to mention that because I love acid etching. The nasty chemicals, I just like this piece here was on the grounds for a couple of years. It was about 15 feet high, but there, you can't see those large pieces of copper that I kind of confiscated when they ripped it down that are in my basement. But they were all acid etched and when was it there? Pardon me? When was it there? What year? See, I started grad school in '93, and this probably would have been up till 96 something. But it wouldn't have been up till 95, 94, 95. What are you working on right now? What am I working on right now? I'm putting bits and pieces of my wax vocabulary, pieces that I do with jewelry, wondering, I have, okay, one last big story. I have an amethyst, it's like 32 carats. It's beautiful, it's not even deep, it's just fantastic color, it's a huge emerald cut about this big. I finally, it just came to me like a month ago, the drawing to work on that, it's gonna be my big piece around. So I'm gonna be working on that. And the thing is, I bought that in First International Gem and Jewelry Show. Here I'm this little bitty, doing craft shows with like 10, 15 pieces of jewelry. And I got a vendor certificate, and they let me in this huge show. And I went up to this booth, this guy had a booth, it was like half the size of this room. and nobody was in it. He could do bead set, breaks up, bead break the set works, or any kind of jewelry you can imagine. And he's an older gentleman, handsome older gentleman with a great energy. And I'm looking around, there's nobody in there, and I look, there's a banana in his booth. He's got $1 million of inventory, right? He's got a banana sitting in his booth. I said, why do you have a banana in your booth? He said, you're talking to me, aren't you? So some kind of something silly, you know. Banana's a little baby, but it's security, but, to just get attention from people. Why would you do that? That's right, get people talking. I could go on a long time. Anybody else have a question? The thing is, and there's just so much more to do and just enjoy it all. Let yourselves know, right? All right, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Please feel welcome to come up and go through stuff with the pictures if you want.
I'm gonna show some more of your work before we end the Zoom, okay?
Yes.
You guys can talk.
Perfect. That's so cool.
Can I see the color on it?
Maybe, you can see it if you do that. Move back like just one teeny bit, because I feel like it's a little blurry. That's good. Yeah, you can definitely see the different colors. These are copper, right? I think that's awesome.
I love these.
Those are so cool. I love it. Excellent.